So thanks for joining us today. It's an absolute honour for you guys to be here. We all love Octopussy in the room, don't we? Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of love for the film here, which is great.
The love has grown, actually. There were very sniffy reviews about it when it first came out. They thought John Glenn's jokes were just not hard-nosed about. He was losing the grit of James Bond, and Roger Moore was just too casual for words. But now everyone seems to rather like it. It's good to go, those.
Yeah, you'd think it would sort of disappear after 40 years, but it seems to get more, actually. There's a sort of nostalgia about those times and no CGI, But it also occurred to me there was no Netflix and there's no mobile phones and about 3 or 4 channels on television. And so it was an event in people's lives, it seems. But then I've met people who weren't even born when it was made, who insist it as one of their favourite.
Yeah. I was sharing a photograph with a younger friend in a dinner, and it was one photograph which was a black and white photograph, and there was one in colour, and he said, "Oh, was it in colour?" According to those days, what reminds me of it, because we're talking about what happens behind the camera, is the continuity lady. The continuity lady. She had a pad and a pencil and had to sit as close to the action as possible, which, if that meant setting up a table in the middle of a swamp where there was a fight with an alligator, there she would be taking notes. And there she was, tied to the top of the train as it was moving along. "It's all right for you men. You just like playing trains," is what she said. But I love the idea of taking notes as to how many knives you'd been thrown from each part of the vest and all the rest of it, all on a piece of paper and a pad.
Yeah, fantastic. So what we do is we start from the beginning as well. Why did you both want to pursue acting as a career, or did you try something else and it didn't work out?
No, I couldn't do anything else. I know what it was. I had one part at university, and it started with a long monologue. And at the end of the monologue, I not only got a laugh, but a round of applause. I think that was it. And it's a sort of trip you go on, and you think life is more exciting when you're acting, and you never know who you are when you're not acting.
No, television, I was saying, even until about 7, we made our own entertainment. We put literally a curtain across the playroom, and our sister rather encouraged our performing. She wrote plays and pantomimes, and we had to, and directed us. But I remember doing the school Christmas play and being told that kings walk in a particular way, and I was playing a king, and I remember walking down the gym, and I was thinking, it's good to be king, and that was perhaps where it all began. That you could be something that our normal everyday life, it was lovely, but you could be a king.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. What was it like working with the stunt team? Obviously, we did lots of action in the Bond films, lots of running, jumping, throwing, and the stunt men do a terrific job. Most of them are here today as well. So what was it like working with them?
Yes, Tony and I had done a lot of what we used to call physical theatre at the beginning of the 70s. So acrobats with Peter Brook's Midsummer Dream and jumping off ropes in flowers with Lindsay Kemp. And I think that's one of the reasons we were cast as performers in a circus. And I didn't realize, I'd had several conversations with Martin Grace, who is the most wonderful man, those who knew him, so wonderful to talk to. I think he actually auditioned for James Bond at one point. But he and I, so we got chatting. And then I said, look, I have a fight with you, Martin, and it's on a train, and it's moving. What do we do? I don't remember reading that in the script, but there it was. They came at the weekend. One of you has to be on top of the train. Well, is that all right, David? Yes, of course. So I went to Martin. Martin, what are we going to do? Don't worry, David. Just hang on to me and we'll sway backwards and forwards, which is, if you see the film, exactly what we're doing. But I couldn't have done without him and his encouragement. I just felt safe with doing a scene with him. There was no time to be worried about it or get nervous. With one take, and that was it. Would he were here, we all miss him amazingly. He had an accident the next day on the same train track, but recovered from that, but unfortunately had another accident later in his life. I'd do anything to see him again today. Bless him.
Yeah, like Martin is terrific, and yeah, just a shame he isn't here and with us anymore. Obviously, Paul Weston then joined Octopussy, and Paul's over there somewhere. There we go.
Yes, I was working with Stephen Burkhoff in his theatre group, London Theatre Group, which was very physical, very inspired by Marcel Marceau and that kind of tradition of mime. And we used to rehearse the first production of The Trial in this little village, in this little church hall in Islington, and then we end up doing James Bond. It's wonderful.
So, were there any script changes or anything you've added in to your scenes? Something that maybe didn't work, or you just added it in because it felt better, or had a bit of direction?
I don't think so. No. People often ask, which were you, Mischka or Grischka? And the only reason I know I must be Grischka is because when I was climbing onto the train, I shout, Mischka, because I think James Bond in the purple shirt is my brother. I don't know whether people really get that, because it's a long time since we've been seen. At the beginning of the film, but I don't even remember that line being in. But let alone the fight, we didn't have a lot to say.
At the end, this is for my brother, and then you throw the knife. Who says that line?
I say that line.
How did you forget that?
Oh God, I do have a story about that one, and I'm afraid we were waiting all day for that scene which we shot in the studio, and Roger, who was delightful and wonderful and relaxed to work with, just wonderful, and he did his against the door and very cool, and then threw the knife at me. Then, okay, thank you, Roger. Lovely. Can we start clearing the set now, please? They're taking the trees away, taking the hut away. The door was where the camera was there still. Now, David, can we just do your shot? So this is what I've been waiting for all day, nay, all my life, for the one close-up with a real line. Can you move to that spot? Throw one dagger. That next spot, throw another dagger. Then say the line. Try not to hit the camera with the knives, because they were putting borders around the camera. Can you move up? And everyone else was deserting. It came out all right. But my advice to movie actors is learn to hit the spot and say your line.
Yeah, terrific. And that's a great scene, such an iconic scene. And to be killed by James Bond, this has got to be on every actor's CV, isn't it?
I bumped into Roger Moore years later in a dentist's waiting room. I nearly killed you 10 years ago. Do you remember? He said, well, I remember the shirts. Because at one point there were about half a dozen people walking around in coloured shirts.
Yes, talking about how much we had to do. I mean, I'm hardly in the film, really, but Roger Moore, James Bond takes on my costume, and so the costume lives on. And I think that's part of the reason we seem to be like more in the film than we actually were. Um, but that's fine. I love it. And on set, there was not only that, but there was a dummy which was the same size as me. I had a wonderful experience of being sort of molded and hatched out of warm plaster of Paris. And the man, of course, who taught us how to throw the knives, which were big knives. They were clunky or whatever, not really throwing knives at all. And then there was Roger Moore, James Bond dressed up too. So there were a lot of those lovely costumes. Emma Porteous, whose husband was also in the film, I think based our costume on a wonderful jerkin and waistcoat that Peter Sellers wore in a film called The Mouse That Roared. Wonderful film if you want to catch it. And it's very similar. His top half is completely ours. I hope it was based on it.
And you had them wonderful wigs as well, don't forget.
The wonderful wigs. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Well, the first time I put that on, I went back to the mirror and all I could see was the sight of my mother when she'd just come from the hairdresser's. It's great. I'm playing a villain in a James Bond movie and I look like my mother. But the boots and the knives helped that. But
They made up for it, yes. They were cool.
by the way, when you get the long shot in the circus of a guy throwing knives at what appears to be Tony on the wheel, that's a model. And
That was his moment of glory.
He licked the ear off too.
And he took the ear off the model. Yes, the guy who was doing the knives was the guy who taught us, and he taught us well. And a little boy came up to me just before we shot the scene and said, "I bet you can't really throw those knives." So I had to get a few of them in, which I did.
Terrific. Right, last question, guys. If you could be a henchman in any Bond film, apart from your own, what would you like to do? If you could choose anybody. You guys are cool, but if you can choose, can you choose anything? Anything from any Bond film? What would be like another, if you had
I
another
don't know.
chance?
I'd like to see. I'd like to have been Doctor No. I don't know why. Perhaps it was just the first one. It was appeared in the Express newspaper in a little strip cartoon, and it was our introduction to James Bond. And although he didn't quite nail it, really it happened after Gert Frobe came and did wonderful villain, and the Bond villain became the archetype. But I think I like the idea of being Doctor No. It's a good name.
It's a really cool name.
Who says the line, "No, I expect you to die"? Who says that? Whoever says that, I'd like to have been him. It's a good line.
There we go. Terrific. Okay, we're going to go to the audience now and get a few questions in if we can.
Good morning, gents. Thanks. More of a request, less of a question, actually. I brought some throwing knives with me. All I'm looking for is a volunteer from the audience. And more of the question is, how steady is your hands these days?
No way.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I haven't touched a knife since, I have to say. They weren't even throwing knives. They were not the right things at all. They weren't nice, light throwing knives. They were hefty, Bowie knives.
Easier to throw than a bowler hat?
No, much worse.
Terrific. Is there any other questions we have in the room?
I just wanted to ask, looking through the film, obviously the film goes all over the world, India, Germany. That's the way it looks on screen anyway. Having looked at your scenes, though, I don't think either of you shot a scene outside of the UK, did you?
The first scene of me climbing over the barbed wire fence was by the wall in Berlin, when the wall was still up. What's the name of the famous gate that everyone had to go through?
Brandenburg.
Yeah, the Brandenburg Gate, yeah. What's up? Yes. Checkpoint Charlie, that's what I'm thinking of. It was nearby then, and I was sent to Berlin with a script in my hand and strict instructions not to tell anyone about what was in it. And I climbed over the fence, pretending it was just by, I think you see the wall in the background. But that was in, Andy had been there the day before doing the same thing, climbing over the same fence, but we didn't meet. We just had those. That's the only bit. We never went to India, but...
Pinewood, that wonderful place that is featured in so many English films, and that's all. That's the only place I went to, and the Weir, and that's the magic of cinema. I wish you'd gone to India; it would be wonderful.
Yes, the initial fight chase scene starts in Berlin, goes to the Pinewood Wood, and then up to Neen Valley.
Just a quick question. Did either of you keep your suits, your outfits from the film?
Everybody asks that now because we live in the world of, mementos. And no, we didn't. We sort of disappeared after it was made and went back to doing fringe theatre or a bit of Shakespeare or Brecht. And then suddenly realised that there was this travelling circus. Well, the girls, can I call them the girls? Yes, I think so. But had been travelling with the film and doing all the promotional work. And we didn't think that was sort of appropriate. And anyway, it was far less, in those days. It was only in the 1990s, that the Comic-Con and everything kind of erupted. And my nephew-in-law found that there was a photo of us going for a lot of money on the internet because we were sort of reclusive. Where were we? We had disappeared or whatever. And so we started coming, which is nice. And we were still enjoying these things because we hadn't, perhaps done that so many as others. But anyway, no paraphernalia, nothing that... we can sell, unfortunately.
Didn't even steal a knife. Oh, God. The number of people who have asked me for the knife, and it should. So, yeah, of course, that would have been the one to take. But didn't think of. And of course, you have these little plastic models at the table. They didn't do little plastic models of people in films in those days. That happened with Star Wars, I think, really.
Hi. So I was just wondering, when you were saying about the train scene, roughly how fast was it moving, and did you have wires to make sure you didn't fall off? Or no?
I don't think I should go into this because I don't think I was properly insured or anything. And it was going about 20 miles an hour, I suppose, chugging along. Was I scared? No. We all used to watch cowboy films on Friday night, on Saturday evenings at 5 o'clock. Cisco Kid and all the rest of it, Lone Ranger. And there was always, and one day they said, next week there's a fight on top of a train. And that stayed in my mind. And it was a little fantasy I was going through. So there we are. So I just did it. But absolutely no. I shudder to think about it now. But it was, bless Martin Grace, who I knew and did just hang on to. And I felt safe, I guess, doing just that. And that's why I just remember him with such fondness and gratitude, because it was it's a good thing to see.
We're often asked why it's so popular, the film. My quick answer to that, I must get in, is no skiing.
And just one quick last one. Do you remember which one of you kills 009 at the start? Because I've always been confused as to which one of you it is.
I think we both failed, really. Well, I mean, we both got. I think we both.
Who throws the last knife?
I think
I think you do.
Yeah.
I think so. Then we look at each other and And then we go. It was lovely to see Andy up in Neen Valley because it's a big operation doing a James Bond movie. We chatted before doing the scene, not during the scene, and not afterwards. It was lovely to see him again.
Extraordinary.
Excellent, great question. Okay, well, just one more final thank you to both David and Tony Meyer for coming up today and doing the Q&A. Thank you very much, guys. Fantastic.
Okay.